Sure. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to yet another exciting episode of Coffee with Professionals. And today we have a very special guest with us, Paritosh. And Paritosh will be sharing his experience as to how one can make a career in insolvency and bankruptcy practice. Hi, Paritosh.
Hi, B. Thank you for having me here. So I'll just give a brief about myself. So I'm currently working in Alvarez and Marshall in their turnaround practice. I have around 3+ years of restructuring experience. I was already working in ENY exclusively in the IBC cases. So that's about me, and I will be sharing my insights on how one can prepare their career in the restructuring landscape.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Paritosh. So, Paritosh, can you just briefly touch upon as to what do you do on a day-to-day basis in the restructuring profile?
Correct. So when we speak about restructuring, it usually involves two types of restructuring. One would be a company which is healthy and just wants a better capital structure or a better operational structure in their organization. And the other one, which we'll cover exclusively, would be if a company is insolvent, right? So earlier there used to be a lot of other restructuring practices like CDR, SDR, which all merge together, and then we have a big unified code that is the IBC. So whatever a person does in an IBC assignment is all covered under the code, right? All the regulations and everything is there. So just to give an example of what activities are there on a day-to-day basis, let me just give you one sentence which would cover the aspect of it. It is like the resolution professional is supposed to run the insolvent company as a going concern. So when you say it's an insolvent company and second is going concern, so the activities that one has to do under an insolvent company is all a part of the regulations, which will include your giving out your Form G, publishing your creditors list, evaluating claims, and also the compliances that happen under the code. And when you say the company is to be run as a going concern, then it's just like any other company that we are looking at, right? So it would be managing their operations, managing their cash aspects, and just handling the various verticals such as HR, admin, everything. So it's basically you are stepping in the shoes of the management, right? The management leaves the company, and the RP is the one who takes in charge of the entire activities. So you essentially, as a person who is aiding the RP, has to take part in all of them, like even the compliances, even the claims filing, even the operations, cash, everything. So that's how you do it. It's like running an entire company. The only thing is that it's not a normal company, it's a company under insolvency. And there are a few restrictions, if you might say, to the operations that is there.
Okay, got it. So I'm pretty sure that having a good understanding of how the business runs and every aspect must be very crucial to this practice, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that's exactly what it is. So the best part of it is that you get to see the company in entirety, right? You need to be sure what operations are happening. You need to be sure that whether everything is happening is approved. That's a major thing, because you are stepping in a company which is established long time back, right? And especially for someone who could be, if I say, a fresher or someone who has not a very large experience in a particular sector, it might be overwhelming for that person to just get in and start operating and managing things. But as soon as you get in, definitely you'll know the more about the industry, you'll know more about the company's operations, and the proprietary knowledge that you might lack, which the employees might have, you can definitely pick it up by scheduling meetings and knowing to know more about them by just interacting with the employees existing
Got it. Amazing. Okay. So Paritosh, IBC is the main insolvency law, right? Who can get into these fields, and what are the practical skills required in this field?
Correct. So when you say IBC, who can get in? It's so basically the thing is, if you look at from a fellow article, he would probably not have any experience, practical experience in IBC, because usually it's qualified CAs or MBAs that work into these practices itself. So unlike taxation or audit, through which we have immense experience, we have special topics that are covering that. So that aspect of practical knowledge that articles might not have, which will come only if you're handling a CIRP case, right? So to relatively, it's an open field. It's no one would say you do not have any prior experience, because that's not something which anyone can actually get. right? So things that one need to be very sure of before getting into this field is what do you want out of it, what do you want to gain in this field. And as I said, it's all about knowing the law, it's about working within the code that has been given. And if anyone really wants to get into this field, he just need to have a sense of direction, a keen eye on details, and I think he should be very well thorough with the code and the changes that are happening, because it's a relatively new code, right? And it will keep maturing. As soon as we find one problem, there will be a case law and we'll have a new rule against it. So you will have sort of a lot of amendments and circulars that are coming out. So you need to be aware of those entire landscape that is happening, and accordingly, one can just get into this field by cracking the interview for so.
Got it, got it, got it. And who are the typical recruiters? Like I understand that Big Four is a major recruiter in this practice. And but are there any
Correct.
other typical employees also?
Correct. So when we speak about restructuring, a few companies directly come out. For example, the big fours, there's BDO, then there is GT, and also INM is very on top tiers of it. Apart from that, there are a lot of insolvency cases, right? What we listen about, maybe Bhushan or the big cases that are happening. These are handled by the big fours, and the big big ticket items are handled by the major what do you say
Consulting firms.
major consulting firms, correct? So apart from that, there are also small ticket items where the debt value is also very low. So there are a lot of other small resolution applicants who run their own practices, handle companies which are very small. So for a person who want to getting into this field, there are basically two ways to get in. One is either you try in one of the big fours, or second would be to get into a small size firm. So each and every route will have their own pros and cons. So if someone really wants to become an RP, that will be like, that's a very long term goal, because you need at least 10 years of work ex to even be there. So if someone wants to go there, then he can probably start off with a small size firm where he knows everything. He is knowing each and every vertical, because there's a very limited scope of work that is there since the company itself is small. So that's the benefit of working in a small size firm, is that you practically know everything that is happening around. You take charge of everything, and the responsibilities and the litigations involved in that is also pretty limited. But if you're planning to go to a big four or any likes of the big four, the things that you learn there are really great. Like, for example, you're working with the lawyers who are the top firms in the country. You get insights, you have access to a lot of material, you have access to a lot of resources that they present. So you might end up working in a particular sector or a particular vertical for a large chunk of time. But what it helps you is that you have access to a lot of other resources which you can use to your leverage and improve your skills. So even if I'm stuck in one vertical for maybe say a year or so, you can definitely get access to the other verticals that are happening, right? You can always learn that. So the learning that you get in a big four is immense. The professionalism that you learn there, the way to handle things, that is something that would be really great if you're working in a big four.
Got it, got it, got it. Okay, awesome. And Paritosh, moving on to the next question that I had, usually students know about the traditional fields like taxation and audit, right? So how can, one know more about this field and prepare for the interviews in a better way?
Okay. So as I said that in IBC, I think there's just one chapter in the curriculum, and that's about it, and that covers only the basics, or it just it's a scratches the surface of what IBC actually has. So one thing that is good about IBC is that there is very limited scope, right? It's not running as huge as the Companies Act or so. So there's very limited things that one has to do in terms of reading the act and understanding its contours, or what is the skills required in that sense. So for a person who wants to get into has an interview, or if someone wants to study the specific aspects, what he could possibly do is be well versed with the code, be aware of the timelines that exist in the code that is given. Apart from that, you should also follow a few major landmark cases, like if you have awareness about the cases, because the landmark judgments are usually passed only in these major cases, right? So you need to be tracking what is the new developments that are happening. So you need to be aware of the RBI circulars that come in, and also just be mindful about the fact that this is a very dynamic space, right? It's just developing, it's evolving, and you always have to be on your toes and understand that when a company is going into insolvency, there's going to be a lot of challenges that come to it. It's not a healthy company. You need to be mindful of that and work towards it. That you're working with limited resources of the company, and you should be aware that this is how you're going to manage the company. So that understanding helps. Also, I think I would recommend that everyone should at least speak to someone who is actually in that space, because irrespective of the reading that you do in the entire material that is there out there, you would not get that insights by practically working in it. So it always helps to find someone on LinkedIn who has actually worked in that space and getting those insights to be familiarized with the operations that actually entail in this entire process.
Got it. Amazing. I totally agree with what you're saying. Okay. So, Paritosh, moving on to the next part, what are the typical growth opportunities in this field?
Right. So when you speak about the growth opportunities, I would maybe split it into two things. One would be the personal growth of a professional, and the other would be the growth in the same field. So as I said that earlier, you would probably be doing a specific, a vertical, maybe just cash management, or just looking at the operations of the company, or just be part of the compliance and so. So as you grow, once you have control over the entire aspect of a particular vertical, as you grow, you will probably start handling two verticals, probably three verticals, and eventually you will become like a project lead on that particular assignment, right? And so in the growth in that, what I'm saying is, so the growth typically that one sees is that eventually you will become like an RP, or you would become like a project lead in that entire uh, project, right? So apart from that, if that's the one, when you say that that's how you will grow in the entire field, the other growth opportunities is as a professional. So I don't think there aren't very many fields which actually give you the opportunity to manage the entire company, right? You are stepping into the management field immediately once the company goes into insolvency, right? You are taking control of each and every aspect of the company. So people skills that you learn there, the ability to understand how company work is unparalleled. Like very few profiles will actually help you do that. So from a personal growth aspect, you get very good people skills. You know how to manage people, you know how usually people work under stress, and how people are actually, so you are dealing with people whose livelihood is on stake, right? So their mindset is completely different from any other company which is a normal company. So when you are interacting with these people, you get to know a lot about how things actually work in the industry, and how a particular sector is working, and what are the know-hows of the operations in there. So from a personal growth, I think it's very good. You can definitely learn a lot of people skills, you learn a lot of management skills. And from a growth in the entire field, the field is definitely out there to grow. Like there is insolvent cases, you hear that this company has fallen down, this company has cash stress in that. So that all aspect, from there, this IBC is here to stay. It's definitely going to go up, the cases are going to increase, and the people that we require in the entire field is also supposed to grow. Apart from that, one also need to be mindful is the exit opportunities. Like it's very much possible that a young fellow might enter into a field, and it's very much possible that he might not enjoy it, right? He would say, this is not something which I am really liking it. So the exit opportunities from the core CIRP process, like if I say compliances or claim management, is very few, because this is something which is typically only for an insolvent company. But when you look at the other aspects, like managing the cash, managing operations, these are the things which are present out there as well, right? There will be a company which will also be operating in the same industry, but might not be insolvent but be healthy. So from that perspective also, the exit opportunities are great. You would not feel that since it's a very niche sector, once you get into CRP or the insolvency business, you would not be difficult for you to make a switch. It's not that. So it all depends upon the skills that you learn during this period, the industry that you work in, and also what you make most of the opportunities that are there with you.
Okay. Got it. I think that's very valuable insight for everyone. Okay. So, Paritosh, next, since we all know that IBC is a very timeline specific, the is regulated, and all the cases have a specific timeline. So how's the work life balance, in
Yeah.
general?
So, so you have hit the point very correctly that IBC is exactly what it is. It's a very time bound process. And when you say the time bound process, there are a lot of compliances and a lot of things that you need to do in a very timely basis. So if you are aware of the timelines, that helps you to plan your things properly. So that's something that you really need to be mindful of. When you say the work life balance, it again depends upon what kind of profile you are in, what kind of vertical you are in, basically, and how easily can you manage things that are there around. The first month or the first few months are definitely going to be hectic, because just think about it, that you're going to enter a company which you have to start running from the next day onwards, and you know nothing about it. You know absolutely nothing. You don't know what the employees are. You do not know what are the ongoing projects that are happening. You do not know what are the ongoing problems that are faced. You do not even know what are the asset landscape. So your first few weeks usually go into understanding the entire company. So the more effort you put in the first few weeks, first few months, goes a long way. The more easy it is for you to take control of the company, that helps you. So if you see the entire process of maybe 180 plus 90 days, there will be few months where you will have to work a lot, maybe during the early stages where you will be working almost for 10 plus hours, just to say in the minimum, or when the resolution plan comes in, when you have to give out your RFRP and all the other processes. At that point of time, you will definitely have a lot of work pressure that will be coming in, but eventually once you get hold of it, it slows down. So in the peaks, there are two peaks in the entire process. One is during your start of the process, and one is when you have the resolution plan, where you have to make a lot of calls, where you have to understand the details of the plan and also hold the COC meetings and so. So it varies, it's dynamic, and it also depends on how well you can manage the processes that are there.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. Awesome. So that brings us to the last part, right, Paritosh? Any tips that you would have for our viewers who want to make a career in this practice?
Okay. So one thing that I usually say to a lot of people who ask me, should I get into this field or not, or I do not have any prior experience in it, is that don't let your past really affect that, right? It's very much possible that you might not have the relevant experience, or you might not have relevant skills that you need for this. You can always work on them, and if there's something that you can't really change, then you just have to live with it, right? You should always give it a chance, not doubt yourself that since you do not have any restructuring experience, I will not make it in this field. Always try and get an interview. Give your best. The have the readings done. Whatever is there in your control, you ace that, and I'm sure you will definitely get into this field. And once you are in this field, you try to make most of it, right? Always try to understand what is happening. Be aware of the various verticals that are there, because these are the small things which will definitely count when you go out, right? Even knowing about a specific vertical which you have not worked in, that goes a long way, that you able to do it when it falls onto you. And the best part about CIRP or the insolvency is that you need to have an attention to detail, because even a small thing, even like if there's a payment which comes before CIRP and you approve it, that's like a catastrophe. So you really need to be sure of what you do, and you need to be on your toes for the entire process. So be ready to give in, be ready to sweat out, and just learn as much as possible wherever you have the opportunity.
Okay, okay, okay. Awesome. Very well. I think that was very, very insightful. Thank you so much, Paritosh, for joining us today. And for just for the benefit of all, I will be sharing link to LinkedIn profile of Paritosh in the description to the video. So feel free to reach out to him if you have any queries.
Okay. Thank you, B, for having me.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Paritosh.